to Mother Chapter 2, summary and then analysis. Well, Mandisa imagines the girl's last morning alive. Yeah, she wakes up, she answers a phone call maybe, takes a shower, has her breakfast, she gets dressed, gets in her car and drives to the university at about 7:45. But at the same time, miles away in Guguletu, Mandisa leaves her home, and before she leaves, she wakes her children. The younger two, Sindiwe and Lunga, meet her in the kitchen for coffee and bread. Umxolisi, the oldest son, eventually joins them, complaining there isn't enough food to eat, but his mother insists there's bread and fruit, even if they can't have protein like eggs or fish. Well, Mandisa prepares to leave, reminding her children of chores they should do and what food they need to save for later. Now, she recognizes and acknowledges she doesn't actually expect them to follow her rules and doesn't even remember them herself when she gets home in the evening. But she feels it's her duty as a mother to have authority over my children. Those are her words. Now, although it's a school day, Mandisa knows her children will not be going to school. For Mandisa, this is burdensome knowledge that weighs her spirit down, but she can't really do anything about it. 2 days earlier, Kostas ordered school children to join Operation Barcelona, ostensibly in support of striking teachers. Now, this involves children skipping school to burn cars and drive reactionary elements out of town. Now, although the students are calling for the government to improve their education, Mandisa remarks that these big-mouthed children don't know anything, and she cautions that if they're not careful, they'll end up like their parents, domestic laborers for wealthy white people. She wonders if it was a mistake sending Umxolisi to be circumcised that winter when he comes of age. She had hoped it would help him get his life together, but instead he's lazier than ever. Well, that morning, as the girl says her goodbyes at the university, Umxolisi joins a group of friends moving with a purpose through the neighborhood, picking up its members on the way to St. Mary Magdalene Church. At the university, the girl sits with a group of friends, including 3 black African women from Guguletu. Everyone is upset that the girl is leaving, and she herself doesn't want to say goodbye quite yet, so she offers to take her friends home. Now, they appreciate the gesture, but worry about a white woman driving into Guguletu in the late afternoon. But anyway, she insists and gathers her 3 friends, plus a young man who lives near her in Mowbray, and she begins to drive. Back in Guguletu, Umxolisi tries to convince the minister at St. Mary's Church, the Reverend Manananga, to let him and his group of friends meet in the church. Someone calls the minister a reactionary from the crowd when he resists, and the minister quickly caves in, telling Umxolisi the group can meet in the church the next morning. The group leaves, chanting and splitting up as they weave through the township. Umxolisi's group then encounters a burning car. They watch it burn and joke about the driver, who's either fled or been burned alive. They wonder if the truck was delivering tuberculosis medicine and speculate the Boers are scared we'll give it to them since our mothers work in their houses. And that is why medicine can be delivered easily, but not quality education. See, the sound of police sirens scatters the group, and they continue through the township, meet up with their other half, which is salvaged metal from a van, and then split up again, returning home. Umxolisi and his friends pass the police station, which everyone treats cautiously, as they don't know what mood the pigs are in. Even so, there is always the possibility of sporting with them, and the group continues to split as people move towards their own homes. Meanwhile, the girl begins to drive her 4 friends. Everyone is silent as they know that today is a marked day, a day that spells closure. So the girl and her friends begin to sing "We Have Overcome" as they drive. However, the song fizzles after only a few rounds. Meanwhile, Umxolisi and his group of friends are almost home, but they're distracted by a crowd swarming a small car, chanting and screaming, fists stabbing the air. And though Umxolisi and his friends are heading the other way, back they run, the magnet too powerful for their stomachs, hungry for excitement. Now, Mandisa begins retroactively piecing together the story of the girl's life, and in describing the girl's very normal Monday morning, Mandisa implies that South Africa is so unstable that violence can bubble up out of seemingly anywhere, punctuating an otherwise normal day with bloodshed, loss, grief. The fact that the family doesn't have access to proteins for their food begins to paint a fuller picture of how poor they actually are. It also hints at the poverty that affected black South Africans more generally under apartheid, a social and political system of institutionalized racism that the South African government adopted in 1948 and maintained right the way through until 1994, the year after the real-life murder of Amy Beale and the fictional murder of the girl. Now, although Mandisa claimed at the beginning of the novel that her son's actions should not be her fault, her slightly younger self is adamant that she must have authority over her children. And before Mxolisi murders the girl, Mandisa appears to bend to the community's expectations and traditions surrounding parenthood. However, it's clear that Mandisa is merely performing the part of the authoritative parent, and she knows that her children don't actually or won't even follow her rules. Mandisa seems increasingly helpless when it comes to guiding her children. She can't get them to go to school. The government can't or won't. Under apartheid, education is compulsory for white children but not for black. And as Mandisa will later reveal in greater detail, knowing that her children are going to school is particularly burdensome because she deeply values education but couldn't finish out her own schooling because of her unplanned pregnancy. She also knows it's one of the few ways that a black South African can escape poverty. So it weighs her spirit down to know that her children just won't have a better chance of a better life. Now, the novel and the way it's written pays careful attention to the political and the social fabric of South Africa leading up to the murder of the girl, not to justify the crime, but to explain how events led up to that point. Now here, in charting how certain and well-intentioned political movements festered and erupted into pure violence, the novel also charts the increasing radicalization of this young generation. Now this passage also reminds readers that Mxolisi's generation is young and ignorant. They have an abundance of pent-up energy and frustration and anger against the government and their circumstances. They are still just big-mouthed children who don't know anything. Mandisa once again singles Mxolisi out as the problem child in her family, and she's willing to try anything to help get him on the right path, including sending him off for ritual circumcision when he came of age, hoping that it would turn him into a man, but Mxolisi is stubborn, he's headstrong, and he's unable to be controlled or shepherded towards a different path. Now, the novel never explicitly says that the murdered girl is Amy Beale, but this passage mirrors her story up to this point. Amy was a Fulbright scholar with a heart for helping people, as seen both by her very presence in South Africa and her willingness to put herself in danger in order to do something nice for her friends. Now, this connects back to Mandisa's letter to the mother at the beginning of the novel, when she noted that people like the girl so believe in their goodness that they never think anyone would want to hurt them. Mandisa depicts the girl as innocent and altruistic, but also naive and idealistic. The interaction between Mxolisi's posse and Reverend Mananga is tense, so the group's refusal to take no for an answer suggests that they see people as either with them or against them. In refusing to give them space to meet the Reverend, he's immediately dubbed a reactionary. Alright? Not wanting to make enemies of the group, the Reverend quickly folds, and his feeble attempt at standing up against the young people also suggests that they are a dangerous force to be reckoned with. Later on, when joking about the fate of the driver of the burning car, it shows that Mxolisi and his friends are callous. They're desensitized to violence. Violence doesn't actually mean anything to them because Violence is so commonplace in their township. They're so used to it and accustomed to it. And the novel implicitly criticizes Mxolisi and his friends for their hard hearts. It also points out that they also have every reason to be angry. So there's a little bit of backwards and forwards as they rationalize that they can get basic necessities like life-saving medicine, but only because it's beneficial to the white people. Now, this young man and his gang are very disdainful of the police. They refer to them as pigs and not knowing what kind of mood they're in. But the boys also consider sporting or playing or just playing jokes and messing around. So they see violence against their white oppressors as rather entertaining. While everyone in the car likely expects to get closure in the sense of saying a final goodbye to one another after college, the novel foreshadows an even more final goodbye that the girl must make to her friends. Now, this passage is important because it points out that Mxolisi was not first to the scene. A riot was already forming around the girl's car, and Mxolisi and his friends are merely drawn into the fight as it occurs. Cheers.